Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. I was reminded of this crazy psycho Karen a few hours ago, while reading about a person who used German to communicate with a crazy Karen. This event happened maybe 15 or so years ago, but many of the events are still very clear in my mind, not because of how traumatic it was, but mostly due to the fact I had to play it out to the bitter end. It took a lot of self-control and discipline to keep up the ruse, but the end result still makes me laugh to this day. I will admit, this was not one of my finer moments in my lifetime, but I still see it as a learning event for everyone involved. I am fairly good at sign language. I really learned it while doing a summer school computer camp for some deaf and blind children. I took a course before the class so I could learn the basics aside from the normal alphabet. By the end of the summer, I had become very good at signing and understanding whole conversations and could communicate very well with my students. I personally think I learned way more from them than they learned from me. But that is a story for the wholesome side of Reddit. It all happened while I was at a Kmart. I was there looking for a specific item. I don't recall exactly what it was at this time. It's really not important to the story. I was putting some things back on the shelf that I had moved when I heard ahem. That sound someone makes to clear their throat. I just ignored it. I recall just not wanting to deal with people that day. So someone trying to get my attention was not at the top of my list. The noise was made again, only louder and more determined. Crazy psycho, ahem. I continue to ignore it. Crazy psycho, excuse me? I still don't respond. I can hear the foot taping, so I, having completed what I was doing, start to move away. It was at this time, she grabbed my arm. She pulls my arm to turn me around to face her. Crazy psycho, excuse me, I'm talking to you. Me. Startled expression, let out a quick yelp and sign, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Crazy psycho. What are you doing? I'm trying to talk to you. Do you know how rude you are? Me. Signing, I'm sorry, I am deaf and did not hear you, but you have no right to grab me. Please leave me alone. Crazy psycho. What are you doing? Stop waving your hand around. Are you doing gang signs to intimidate me? Stop it right now. At this point, her yelling has drawn the attention of several customers, as well as the store manager. Normal people. I'm sorry ma'am, but I don't think he can hear you. He's trying to use sign language. Store manager. Ma'am, could you please come over here and leave him alone? Crazy psycho. No, he's flashing gang signs to try to intimidate me. Call the police. He's in a gang. I want cops here right now. She grabs onto my arm and will now not let go. I'll tell ya, this woman had a grip. Not even my mother had a grip like this woman, and my mother was a farm girl. She grabbed and held on so tight, her fingernails actually dug into my arm and left some good bruises. She would not let go and continued to demand the police. The customers and the manager are all trying to get her to let go. She just would not let me out of her grip. This went on for several minutes of me trying to pull away, her screaming, and other customers trying to separate us. I can only figure someone called the cops. I don't know how long it was. It seemed like a while, but it could have been a few minutes. When you have a crazy psycho tearing your arm up, the passing of time seems to take longer. 3 officers show up, thankfully. Police department. Let him go, stop screaming, settle down. Crazy psycho. I want him arrested. He was flashing gang signs and intimidating me. He was threatening me. Me. Moving away from the area as quickly as possible, the manager standing between me and crazy psycho. A couple of minutes pass by. They had to put her in cuffs before she actually started to talk with them in a coherent manner. When things started to settle down, one of the officers came over to me and asked what was going on. I should have come clean at this moment, but I couldn't give up on this. I've pretty much committed to the whole deaf thing now. If I'm anything, I'm not a quitter. I started signing to the officer, who then realized I was deaf. He pulls out his notepad and pen and then gestures to write what happened. Me. Writing, I was shopping. This lady grabbed my arm and spun me around. I tried to tell her I can't hear. She then grabbed me harder and started screaming. Everyone was trying to help, but she wouldn't let go. I just want to go home. She's crazy. She really hurt my arm. I point out my arm, at which point the officer sees the gouge marks and the bruising starting to show up. He then walks me over to Crazy Psycho. Police department. Hey, do you see this? Do you see how bad you hurt him? He has no idea why you were grabbing him. He can't hear, he's deaf, he was signing to you. What kind of person are you? The look on her face was totally worth the pain and suffering. She then starts babbling. Crazy Psycho. Well, I didn't know. How am I supposed to know sign language? All he had to do was talk to me. It's not my fault. They should have people to help them. They escort her out to the patrol car and close the door. They take my statement and several other statements from the other people in the store and the store manager. They ask for video footage if available. I am told I can head home. I get in my car and start laughing as I drive away, knowing I'm a complete jerk and that I likely destroyed someone's life. Aftermath. She was charged with assault and creating a public disturbance. From the statements, the video footage, and the pictures of my bruised arm, her lawyers ended up pleading down to assault and working out no jail time and a $1,600 fine and 450 hours of community service. I was sent a notice from the court about the plea deal. In my state, if a disabled person is attacked, they must notify and inform. I also have the option to say if it is acceptable or if I feel the deal is not fair. This is used to help the judge make a more informed decision. As I didn't want to take my chances of sitting in a courtroom, I signed the paper and returned it to the court. Yes, I know this whole situation looks bad, and at the time, I was in my early 20s. So I didn't really care or think much about it. At the time, I just wanted to teach her a lesson about how to treat people. I know now how much of a jerk I was for pulling something like that. But I still can't feel that if it were not me, what if it was one of my students, or some other deaf person who she attacked? That's ultimately what mattered to me at the time, but I still realize it wasn't the right way to deal with this situation. Backstory for context. I had just left the hospital about a week or so ago due to really bad pain behind my knee. So bad that I couldn't sit, stand fully upright, walk, lay down, nor bend or fully straighten my leg. It came out of nowhere and got progressively worse every day that I ended up bedridden for 2 weeks. Also to note that even though the summer heat is coming to an end where I live, I drank plenty of cold water to the point where I'd have to get up every hour to use the bathroom throughout the day. The pain was so bad that I would lose the urge and would just lay in bed all day, not even wanting to get up to eat or pee because it was so bad and sensitive to the touch that any movement would make me wince. Doctors were baffled, so there was a CT scan and an MRI done, as well as bringing in an oncologist because I had a large mass of fat behind my leg, a tumor about the size of a football. Hearing oncologist almost brought me to tears, as I feared for the worse. It turns out what I thought was a really bad cramp was actually torn tendons and ligaments in my leg. I hadn't fallen or hit my leg against anything, which is what confused everyone, and the large mass was just a fatty tumor, nothing too serious according to the doctors and surgeon. No operation was done. It's not cancerous, and I was told in a few weeks the swelling would go down and my leg should heal naturally. I've been using a walker since discharge, and just recently the pain is much more tolerable that I no longer need it, but still use a walking cane because there's still a chance I could fall, and I won't risk it for a biscuit. Now that that's out of the way, onto the story. I've been given hydrocodone upon discharge for the pain, but only for 3 days as it's pretty strong and one could possibly get addicted. So I've been taking Tylenol after my meds ran out, as it's the strongest over-the-counter medicine I could get. I have to keep my leg either very still while laying down, or constantly moving it, i.e., walking, as it hurts if I stand still for too long. This incident happened 2 days ago. Instead of sitting at home doing leg exercises in bed and waiting for my dad to go bring me pain meds, I decided to go with him to keep myself moving, hoping it would help me, plus spend more quality time with him. We've had an on and off bumpy relationship. So we headed to the pharmacy, and once we're there, I decided I also wanted some jacket snacks. I informed my dad about this, and so he doesn't have to slowly follow me around. I suggest he go out to get some quick groceries at the supermarket across the street. He agrees, and we go our separate ways for a while. I go around with a basket and pick my stuff up along with pain meds, taking my time, then head to the counter up front. This is where the entitled dad and his son come into play. The son was quiet the entire time and didn't say a word. As I'm standing in line, I put my basket down next to me and hold onto my cane. As mentioned before, it hurts to stay standing still for too long, and my hands start to wobble a bit as I'm struggling. Entitled dad, Kevin, is behind me in line and makes a snide remark about me struggling to stand, saying how I should quit being a drama queen. You can wait. I turn to him and glare for a few seconds before replying, I have a bad leg. I can't stand for too long, in a deep, irritated tone before turning away. As I do, this man has the absolute nerve to walk over and picks up my basket and starts rummaging through my items. I turn and demand loudly, put down my basket now, to ensure I grab other people's attention. He scoffs and hands it to his son, who's about maybe 6 years old and carrying their own basket, and keeps rummaging, picking out and commenting on my snacks, and gets to my pain meds. What are you, some sort of junkie? What's with all the painkillers? You're getting off on these, aren't you? There's only 3 other people in line who are either starting or trying not to get involved. I ignore his question and ask for my basket back. This angers Kevin, and he asks again in a much louder voice, You're getting off on these, aren't you? As he throws the stuff back into the basket. I'm almost up to the counter next, but I walk a bit closer, as my leg is now starting to feel a bit stiff, and ask once again for my basket. Kevin shouts, Fine. And as I hold my hand out to grab it, he, instead of handing it to me, throws it forward towards me. I'm only 5 foot 7 inches, and this man was about 6 foot something, a pretty tall guy, and threw it at chest height as if tossing a basketball. So basically he tossed it at my head. I put my hands up not to catch it but to block it from hitting me in the face. As soon as it hit me, I was knocked backwards, stumbling with my leg in pain from the sudden movement, as I tried to catch my balance or grab onto something, anything, so I wouldn't hit the floor. If I had fallen against the counter, it would have been much better, as I'd still be standing, but I fell straight on my butt and onto my back. The rope around my wrist from my cane, coupled with the momentum, made the cane spin back, and I landed on it with my right arm. I can't tell you how much I screamed and cried in agony as I fell and lay there trying to move my body to my right side. I can't even sit down normally, without pain, and have to lean most of my body to the right whenever I sit down on the toilet seat, at the dinner table, or even sitting upright on my soft mattress. Any weight or pressure on my leg makes it hurt, and it's uncomfortable and gives me backaches, so landing hard straight down was absolute hell. The other customers, as well as the cashier and store manager, started shouting at the guy while trying to help me up. I declined, wanting to stay on the floor, as it'd be much better than if I was sitting or standing, and demanded loudly for the cops to be called, and to not let the man go, as I was sure as hell going to be pressing charges. Kevin doubles down and shouts back at everyone else, I mean, look at him, he's exaggerating, he's not hurt. Look at all these pain meds, walk to my basket and take out my stuff he's buying, he's probably getting high off of these. How in the hell? No one person needs this many Tylenol, he's an addict, he doesn't even need this. He proceeds to kick my cane away, but the strap is still around my wrist. It's all fake, it's an act. As he's finishing his stupid speech, his voice is starting to shake, as I'm guessing he's realized he's not gonna win this one. He goes and grabs his son's hand, puts his basket down and tries to speed walk out of the store, muttering something along the lines of, Come on X, we don't need this, we'll go to another store. But one customer blocks his path, as well as the manager who's already on the phone with the dispatcher and saying officers are on their way. Upon hearing this, Kevin bolts, dragging his kid along, and shoves the customer blocking his path into the metal detector near the entrance. Kevin stumbles as a woman with her child in a stroller starts to walk in. Kevin is dancing left to right, trying to get past the woman who is now just standing there confused as to what's happening. The shoved customer gets back on his feet, runs up to Kevin, spins him around 180 degrees, and tackles him to the floor, keeping him pinned. Fast forward to my dad coming back and asking what the hell happened. I explained, as well as the other customers and manager. Police arrive after a while, and everyone starts to explain what happened. Statement was given, charges were pressed, and the Kevin was taken in cuffs to the back seat of a squad car. His son stayed behind and would be picked up by his aunt. The only thing he said was, "I'm sorry," before we left. My grandparents are kind of wealthy. They don't look like it, but they are. They live in a nice farmhouse, and they lead a fairly peaceful and quiet life. Their youngest son, my Uncle Ted, in his 30s at the time, was dating a woman that we will call Karen, for the sake of this story. No one in our family liked Karen. She was a condescending, entitled woman who didn't leave any of us any room for doubt that she was dating our uncle just for his parents' wealth. She was a certified gold digger, and he was just an idiot for not seeing it, even though most of the people in our family told him so directly and indirectly. At one of our family gatherings, she didn't mind making a terrible comment about how after my grandparents die, my uncle will get everything since he's their favorite. She even said she can't wait to put her hands on my grandmother's stacked jewelry box that my uncle told her about. And then when the room went quiet after what she said, she tried playing it off as a joke and said, "Oh, PS's, did I say that out loud? My bad. Oh, come on everybody, I was just kidding." Yeah, right. The whole atmosphere got extremely awkward after that, and people just started leaving kinda early, since they didn't really want to be around her anymore. After that day, my grandparents called 2 of their 3 sons and 1 daughter, and asked them to visit them to discuss an important matter, and they decided to exclude Uncle Ted from that meeting. Once all of them got there and sat down, my grandfather started telling them that he gathered them today to take action regarding the woman their brother is dating. He started with, "No one has the right to interfere in someone else's private life. No one has the right to break up a relationship between 2 people, as long as they're not harming anyone else, even if everyone around them doesn't like what they're seeing." Everyone quietly nodded and kept listening as my grandpa continued. "However, I have every right to protect my children if I ever feel they're harming themselves one way or another." Then Grandpa proceeded to tell them his plan to put some of the people lurking around his family to the test. A couple of weeks after that one meeting they had, he called his sons and daughter and told them to come to his farmhouse with their families, since he has a big announcement to make. And this time everyone showed up, including Uncle Ted and his entitled girlfriend. Grandpa started with how he hasn't been feeling so well lately, and how he feels that his day is nearing. It got really serious right off the bat. Everyone in the room got tensed up. Well, except for one person, one stranger that has been waiting for that day to come ever since she set foot in this house. Anyways, Grandpa continues with his announcement. "Due to my health issues, I consulted lately with my lovely wife and my lawyer, and I decided to write down my will and divide my inheritance between all of you." Karen's eyes lit up, as any talk about her future fortune brings her nothing but joy, even if it was at the cost of our beloved grandparents dying. Then Grandpa says, "But what I want to do a bit differently is that I want to be the one to announce how I'm going to divide my wealth. I don't want you to wait for after my demise to know what you're going to get. If you're getting something from me, you're going to know it right now." Then his lawyer hands him his will, and he proceeds to read what's written in it. After what seemed to be an eternity but didn't actually pass 10 minutes, my grandpa folded his will and ended it with, "This is how I decided to divide my wealth while I'm of perfect sound mind." It was quiet after that for a long moment. I mean, Grandpa, you left a huge elephant in the room. Every single one got something of value from your inheritance. Everyone except for Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted looked confused and didn't really know what to say. He was a really good guy, and he loved his parents, and they too loved him, but he was just a little bit too naive for his own good. But while my uncle stayed silent without saying a single word back to his father, his Karen of a girlfriend did not. She got super red in the face and exploded. "Are you freaking kidding me, old man? What the hell does that mean? Why won't you give anything to Emmy, I mean to us? Grandpa told her, "It's not up to you to tell me what to do with my own money. That's what I see fit, and that's what's going to happen, period." She kept screaming and threatening everyone around her until she was kicked out by my other uncle from the house, while Uncle Ted just followed her outside, tucked her into his car, and they drove off. Poor Uncle Ted, he doesn't deserve what Grandpa did to him, but more so, he doesn't deserve to be with someone like that horrible woman. And that's how that meeting was concluded. Suspiciously, no one talked about what happened. No adults asked my grandpa about the reason why he excluded Uncle Ted from getting a share of his inheritance. Everything just seemed too quiet, and life returned to normal the very next day. Well, except for Uncle Ted's. All it took was a few days after this one explosive meeting for his gold-digger girlfriend to dumb him, since, well, she won't be able to put her hands on his parents' money anymore. Her staying with him, acting like she loves him, made no sense after all of that, and so she broke up with him. All of us tried to feel bad for the guy after the breakup, but we couldn't help ourselves but to feel extremely happy for him that he got rid of that gold digger. We're really ecstatic that we're not going to see this woman again during family gatherings. In the next family gathering, Grandpa had us sit down again, and he just started mind-blowing everyone. Again, told us how the whole thing about his inheritance was something he came up with the help of my grandma, to figure out if Karen was going to stand by his son right when he had nothing, or was just going to bail on him once his parents' money was out of the equation. And now that this is a question we all have a clear answer for, then of course, he's going to redivide his inheritance to include his beloved son Ted this time, and exclude no one from it. And that he never actually had any health issues to start with. He was just getting deep into the play he was cooking, and wanted to nail it. Oh, come on, Grandpa, hee. Of course, Uncle Ted had mixed emotions hearing this, but in the end he came along, and he and Grandpa shared a long hug that got some of us to shed a tear or two. And there you have it, a happy ending to a fairly long story, right? Nope, there is more. It gets better. It seems that Karen couldn't just take the L and be on her way. She couldn't swallow that pill. Couldn't let all these months she dated my uncle go to waste. She wanted something out of it. One night, my grandparents woke up to their dogs going off barking like nothing else. Right in the middle of the night, Grandpa grabbed his pistol and just went out to see what's causing this ruckus. And there she was, Karen, trying to fend off the beasts attacking her. And once she sees my grandpa, she screams at him to help her and order these dogs to get away from her. It took my grandpa a moment to realize who she was, and when he did, he told the dogs off, and they stopped going after her and sat down near their owner. He then asked her, "What are you doing here?" At first, she tried to deny what she came for, by making up some lame excuses about how she missed them and came to visit at 3 in the morning. But after my grandpa threatened her to call the police, she confessed that she came here to grab what she could from that jewelry box she heard so much about, that she earned what's in it, and that he should compensate her for all the time she spent with his pathetic son. And right when she was about to finish that sentence, she heard a shotgun cocking coming from behind the man that stood in front of her. It was Grandma, and she was pissed. One quick thing to know about Grandma. She's an angel, truly one of the most loving people I've ever known. But you surely didn't want to see her pissed, because may God have mercy on your poor soul if you got her angry. She tells her, "You tricked my son for all of this time, stole all of his money, lost him all of his friends and broke his heart, and now you dare come here to my doorstep to steal some more? Oh, I don't think so." I learned later from Grandpa that he was on the verge of letting her go, but that was before Grandma showed up. You just don't argue with her when she's in that state. She then points her shotgun at Karen, orders her to lay on her stomach, puts her face in the mud, and stands over her while asking Grandpa to tie her hands behind her back with the roughest rope he could find until the police arrive. "They shall be here in a few minutes. I called them already," she tells Grandpa. 10 minutes later, the cops arrive, put the Karen in handcuffs and take her away. All the while she wailed and shrieked like she lost her mind. And that was the last time we saw her. I remember hearing about her getting some years in prison for breaking and entering, but I didn't know specifically how many years she's got. Let me just say that I have one of the most badass grandparents anyone has ever had. This happened yesterday. I'm a 19-year-old male. I work with my 63-year-old uncle on his truck. We deliver home appliances, mattresses, and also help people move around the city and the neighboring 2 cities. My uncle has a contract with VH Corporation, a small company similar to Walmart but focused on credit and home appliances like phones, tablets, hair dryers, and hair trimmers. My uncle and I handle the deliveries for that company, delivering to clients, other shops under the name of VH, and for warranty repairs. Each store has at least 2 employees working, one at the cash register and another at the main desk, both basically doing the same tasks. I was just arriving at one of those VH stores, which we'll call Shop N. At that moment, there was only one employee working at the desk because the other was on maternity leave. We had to get things ready, which included a 50-inch TV and a 420-liter fridge. I focused on the TV and my uncle on the fridge. It's important to note that they had a dress code at the company. A pink t-shirt with the logo on the left side of the chest, jeans and shoes. I was wearing joggers, tennis shoes, and a blue hoodie, which I use only when it's raining and cold. My uncle was wearing jeans, the same tennis shoes as I, and a military green short-sleeved shirt. I was unmounting the TV from the wall mount when a lady approached me and asked for the price of the TV. I told her that I didn't work there, but she could approach the main desk and ask for it. She thanked me, and I continued with the TV until someone tapped my shoulder. It was a middle-aged woman with short black hair, shorts, and a floral blouse. The next conversation ensued as I placed the TV over its box to remove the wall mount. This conversation was in Spanish, and we used a few expressions I'm not sure how to translate, so I'll do my best here. Also, I forgot to mention that the employee was busy with another client at the front desk. Me. Looking at the woman and standing up while being polite. "Hi miss, how can I help you?" Karen. "Excuse me, can you please let me know the price of this air conditioner?" She points to the air conditioner on display. Me. "Well, I guess it should state the price on the air conditioner. It has a cardboard sign with the price on it. That's the price if you want to buy it, and pay via credit," I said as I nodded softly, trying to help before looking back at the task at hand. Karen. "I saw the price already." Me. "Very well then." I then focused back on the TV, unscrewing the wall mount. Karen. "Very well, that's too expensive. Are you trying to cheat me?" Me. Looking at her a bit confused. "Well miss, that's the price here if you want to pay via credit. If I recall correctly, the price when paying cash or debit is 20% less." Karen. "If you recall correctly. Seriously, you're not even capable of remembering something from your own job? What a useless employee." Me. Realizing that she misunderstood me as a worker of the shop. "Oh sorry, but I don't work here miss. I'm just a..." Karen. She cuts me off and gives me a small smack on my back, almost making me lose balance and fall over the TV. Since I was crouching, "You should be fired for being an incompetent and useless employee. Where's your manager?" At this point, I simply stammered a bit since I'm bad with confrontations. I was also shocked that she dared to hit me, even if it didn't hurt. This is when my uncle entered the scene. Uncle. He's a tall, thin guy, around 1.82 meters while I'm just 1.73 meters. "Excuse me, but what's going on?" Karen. She looks at my uncle and thinks that maybe he's a customer as well or something like that. As I tried to focus on my task and not think about this, this employee is just disrespectful and useless. He doesn't remember the prices of the things in his own workplace. Uncle. "Miss, he doesn't work here." Karen. She just ignores what my uncle said and continues, "He should be fired. I would never hire someone like him who probably doesn't even remember his own name." Uncle. "Miss, he's my nephew and he works with me, not with the shop." Karen. "What do you mean by that?" The woman looks confused now. Me. "As I just said moments ago, I don't work here. I'm just helping because the coworker of the woman at the main desk isn't here, and she can't do all of this alone and attend to customers." At this point, Karen realizes the situation and simply huffs and scoffs as she walks towards the main desk, where the nice employee is still working with the clients that were there before Karen. She deals with Karen with ease. I focused on the TV, finished packing it, and helped my uncle pack the fridge. Then, when Karen left and the other clients left as well, we sat down with the nice employee. She told us that Karen tried to say that I gave her the wrong price and caused her trouble. Karen was basically demanding a discount on the air conditioner and a washing machine, if I recall correctly, despite the fact that the nice employee literally saw and heard our interaction from her desk, which was about 2.5 meters away. The nice employee called Karen out on her bluff and even told her that if she didn't leave, she would call the police for assaulting me. There were security cameras around the shop, so Karen left embarrassed, and we probably won't see her for a while. My ex is a control freak, and that's putting it mildly. We share custody of our teenage daughter alternating weeks. Even when our daughter is with me, my ex feels the need to know every single detail of her movements. She constantly texts, checking up on her and demanding updates. It's one of the many reasons I left her. My daughter is now well into her teens and has had enough of her mother's controlling behavior. She's smart enough to disable the tracking apps my ex tries to install on her phone. This summer, we decided to go camping with my new partner and her kids. I informed my ex exactly where we were going and our planned travel route, thinking it would keep her calm. As soon as we left for the trip, my daughter decided she was done with the constant surveillance and turned off her phone. It wasn't long before I got a text from my ex demanding to know why our daughter wasn't responding and where we were going. It puzzled me how she knew we were off our planned route, but I brushed it off and focused on the road. When we arrived at the campsite, we started unpacking. While going through my daughter's bag, she found something unexpected, an AirTag. My daughter and I were both unimpressed but more amused at this point. We considered throwing it away, but then decided to have some fun with it instead. Our campsite was in a small town that had a post office. We bought a large potato, and my daughter drew an angry face on it. We put the AirTag and the potato inside a sealed post bag and mailed it to her mother. Over the next 6 days, I received a series of increasingly frantic calls and texts from my ex. She was losing it as the AirTag traveled from our remote town through another state and slowly back to her address. We enjoyed our camping trip without the constant pings and notifications. It was refreshing to say the least. A week flew by and we headed home. I dropped my daughter off at her mother's place, almost forgetting about the package. A few days later, I got an excited call from my daughter. She was grounded but didn't seem to mind at all. The package had finally arrived, a couple of weeks after we sent it. Apparently, when my ex opened the bag, she was greeted with a foul-smelling mush. The potato had rotted and spilled all over the living room carpet, leaving a disgusting mess with the AirTag right in the middle. It was my ex who opened it, and I can only imagine her reaction. The best part, my daughter thought it was worth getting grounded for. She told me all about the mess and how her mother freaked out. Even now, my ex tries to control and track our daughter, but she doesn't have much luck. Our camping trip was a reminder that sometimes a little creativity and a sense of humor can turn an annoying situation into a memorable one. The phones in the call center are open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. I work a later shift from 11:30 to 8. 1 week, the following happens. Monday, I clock into my job at 11:30 a.m., do 5 minutes of setup, and start taking phone calls from customers by 11:35. I clock out at 8 p.m. that night. Sometime during the day, a memo comes down from corporate. Call center representatives should start taking calls the moment their shift is scheduled to start. Tuesday, in order to avoid working off the clock, I clock into my job at 11:15 a.m., do 5 minutes of setup, 10 minutes of administrative work, and start taking phone calls from customers at 11:30 a.m. When my shift officially starts, I clock out at 8 p.m., having done 15 minutes of overtime that day. Wednesday, in order to avoid working off the clock, I clock into my job at 11:15 a.m., do 5 minutes of setup, 10 minutes of administrative work, and start taking phone calls from customers at 11:30 a.m. When my shift officially starts, Sometime during the day, a memo comes down from corporate. Overtime is not approved for call center representatives. I clock out early at 7:45 p.m. in order to avoid doing overtime. Thursday, starting at 11:25 a.m. I do 5 minutes of setup. I clock in at 11:30 and start taking calls immediately. I stop working at 7:55, but don't clock out yet. I'll be damned if I let corporate make me a victim of wage theft. Over the next 5 minutes, a couple of calls from last-minute Karens come in. I don't take the calls, and at 8 p.m. I clock out. The customers eventually hang up disappointed. Friday, starting at 11:25 a.m. I do 5 minutes of setup. I clock in at 11:30 and start taking calls immediately. Sometime during the day my boss comes to talk to me. Boss, when you clocked out at 8 o'clock last night there were still customers waiting in the call queue. Why didn't you take their calls? Me, sorry boss, my shift ends at 8 o'clock and overtime is not approved for call center reps. Boss, oh well, you're allowed to stay late to finish up the customers that call in. Me, sure thing boss, can I have that in writing? Later that day, a memo comes down from corporate. Overtime for business needs is approved for call center representatives. At 7:59 p.m. a last-minute Karen calls in. I help her until 8:05. I clock off 8:15 to make sure I get paid for the extra 10 minutes of work I did. Keep trying, corporate. I'm hourly. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.